In a national forest thick with old infrastructure, there is a retired fire lookout tower listed on maps as inactive. Jonah hiked there on a weekday in late fall, when the sky stayed low, and the light made everything look like wet pewter. The road to the trailhead had heaved with frost over the years, and when he parked, he thought about how much he didn't want to change a tire in this air. The trail was an old access path that climbed in switchbacks through fir and spruce. A rope of cloud lay along the ridge, weirdly level, like an ocean seen from below. The lookout tower emerged as a black geometry against it. 4 legs, cross-bracing, a box room on top with glass for walls, and a catwalk around it. A metal ladder led to a locked hatch. A sign said, "Structure unsafe, do not climb." He circled the base, taking pictures of the engineering and the way Lycan had made a map of the north leg. He was alone except for the wind. On the leeward side, he found the old service shed with its door half off. Inside were mouse nests and paper, oil stains, a coffee can full of rusted nails, and a binder swollen with rain. He flipped through it and found weather logs from the late 1980s. The pages were tidy: date, temperature, wind, remarks. The remarks were what caught him. A hand, the same one for months at a time, had written things like smoke column 240 AZ and helicopter 3 pass. Then there were entries that didn't belong in weather. October 6, heard whistling in Endraw. Checked, no person visible. October 8, mimicry, outside station after light out. Sounded like radio. October 10, do not answer. He looked back at the tower and felt, for the first time that day, that peculiar loneliness that knows it is being measured. He slid the binder under his jacket because he didn't want rain to finish the work of mice. He told himself he'd leave it at the ranger station if he could find someone to care. He ate his sandwich, leaning against the leeward leg, where the wind made a harp of the steel. When he started down the trail, the fog thickened. He passed a spur he hadn't noticed on the way up, a faint trace through Huckleberry leading to the north. He checked his map app. It showed a dashed line once used for supply runs. On impulse, and because he had hours before dark, he followed it. The spur bent around the mountain into a shallow basin. The fog pooled there, making the world a small room with white walls. He heard, very faintly, the crackle of a radio old VHF chatter, the kind he had listened to as a kid when his uncle was a volunteer firefighter. He stopped and listened harder. The words weren't words, just syllables shaped like them, snapped and hissed. He moved slowly forward until the basin opened onto a clearing with a concrete pad. 4 bolts stuck up where a small building had once been. In the center, wrapped in a plastic bag that had yellowed in the sun, cracked in the cold, was a handheld radio with a cable to a dead battery. It shouldn't have worked, but as Jonah approached, it made a stuttering breath of static and then formed a voice. "Look out! Station calling. Come back." He stood with one hand hovering above the set. The voice was wrong, like it had learned the shape of a transmission from listening, not from speaking. He reached down and turned the volume knob. It made the expected scratch. He keyed the mic without meaning to, muscle memory from borrowed rigs. "Station, this is," he began, and the radio cut him off by repeating his words in his cadence. This is. Then swallowing its tail, he turned the radio off. It continued to hiss, then settled. He took a slow step back, then another. Somewhere in the fog, a foot slid on gravel. He didn't run. He walked with a pace he could turn into a sprint if he had to, and he spoke aloud in an ordinary voice because sometimes pretending is the only rope over a hole. "No signal out here," he said to the air. "Dead battery. I'll take it down to the station." Ahead, the spur narrowed between young firs. The fog pressed close enough that branches beaded water on his sleeves. He thought he saw a shape move to parallel him on the right, then on the left, always at the edge of vision, like a person keeping a polite distance. At the main trail, he turned downhill. The fog thinned to the kind that turns branches into dripping ink drawings. He didn't look back. He descended switchbacks he recognized, past the big boulder that looked like a sleeping animal, and saw his car through trees like a small black punctuation mark. Relief arrived too early, and because it arrived, it was punished. On the driver's side window, written in the film of mist and road dust, with one clean finger, were the words, "Don't answer." The same caps as the binder, the same bunched urgency. He unlocked the car with a fob and put the binder on the passenger seat, laying the radio on top of it without thinking. The radio, dead and bagged, made a little inhale and then said, in his voice, "Don't answer." Then it repeated the words again, in another voice, laced with static, as if someone very far away had tried to say them and time had chewed up the edges. He drove out reckless, tires skidding on the frost heaves, the antenna guy wire on the tower singing in his mind. He didn't stop until he hit the county road and cell bars came in. He pulled over and took a picture of the binder's pages, then put the binder and the radio in the trunk because he couldn't stand them in the cabin with him. He sat with the engine running and watched wind tear at a line of weeds until his hand stopped shaking enough to dial. At the ranger station, a woman with the soft power of someone who had hauled water by hand for years listened like she'd heard everything twice. He put the binder on the counter. He didn't mention the radio. She paged through the logs, paused at October, and sighed. "They wrote things down that weren't for the file," she said. "Sometimes they did that." "Did anyone?" he started, then chose a different question. "Do you have an archivist?" "We have me and 2 volunteers," she said, then looked at him the way people do when they place the bruise under another person's skin. "Don't go up there in the fog." He didn't. He drove home. A week later, in the parking garage under his building, the trunk light flicked on as he walked past, triggered by his key fob. He looked in without wanting to. The radio lay in the bag, silent, its rubber antenna bent from time. On the plastic, and the faint residue that dust leaves on plastic that's been outside, were fingertip ovals, 4 in a row, as if someone had rested their hand there for balance. He bought a roll of gaffer tape and wrapped the bag shut and wrote on it in marker, "Do not open." Sometimes at night he will dream a tower's ladder in cold hands and a hatch that opens to a room of windows where the wind is a constant voice. In the dream, a radio crackles. It calls for him in his voice, and in others, some he knows and some he doesn't. When he wakes, he goes to the closet and checks the taped bag without touching it. He hasn't thrown it away. He tells himself he will, every time. Then he tells himself another story, that if he takes it back to the forest and puts it on the concrete pad, some circuit will close, and the voices will go back to being wind. These stories are reported in the tone of true encounters often shared by hikers, campers, and rural residents. Odd human mimicry in forests, unsettling roadside and cabin intrusions, and eerie interactions with old infrastructure where isolation magnifies danger. The details reflect the kinds of experiences that circulate in outdoor communities: footsteps pacing trails, voices or whistles imitated from the dark, suspicious nighttime knocking, and strange finds at abandoned sites, while preserving anonymity and respecting that many incidents lack official resolution. Marisol took a seasonal job in a mountain town and rented a tiny cabin at the end of a decommissioned fire road. The realtor warned that snowplows didn't go that far, and that weekends brought dirt bikes to the national forest. She loved the solitude. Her nearest neighbors were 2 miles downhill, and at night, the ridgeline cut the stars into a black saw. The fire road had a gate most people respected, but there were always signs of trespass: tire chevrons in dried mud, empty beer cans in the ditch, cigarette filters blotted brown. She carried herself with confidence. Learned in cities don't make it easy, and don't look afraid. She hauled groceries on Sundays, stacked her wood, learned the patterns of blue jays and deer, and listened to the small house settle when the temperature fell. One Thursday after dusk, she heard a motor climb the switchback's wrong sound for the valley, sharper, closer. She stepped onto the porch and turned off the interior lights so she could see out. Headlights braided through trees below, then stopped around the second bend where the road traversed a steep cut bank. The motor idled, then revved, then died. Silence dropped hard. Frogs quit. The smell of exhaust drifted up. She waited for the inevitable, Someone cursing a dead truck, doors slamming, the Doppler shout of, "Hello?" It never came. No door opened, no footsteps climbed. The vehicle sat in the dark and made the tiny cooling ticks of metal. Her phone read one bar. She texted her coworker, "Some dumbass stuck on the fire road." No reply. She went inside, locked the door, and set a pot of water to boil, trying not to feed the unease that crept over her skin. The house had good bones, but a bad habit of broadcasting small noises, mice in the wall, limbs scraping the eaves. She told herself she would check again after dinner. When she stepped out 10 minutes later, the headlights were off. The road below was a slick of shadow. The vehicle was now only a heavier piece of dark in the dark. She clicked her flashlight once, briefly, and swung the beam down. Reflectors along the gate flashed white. Just above the second bend, two small glints answered her light, too low and too close together to be a truck mirror. Eyes, she thought, then realized they hadn't blinked. She shut off the flashlight and stood still enough to hear her pulse. A laugh sounded, easy and low, exactly the kind a friend would make if they had sneaked up and surprised her. It came from behind the cabin, not from the road. She turned in place slowly, feeling the boards of the porch under her feet. The laugh came again, farther into the trees, as if coaxing her to step off the safe circle of the house. She swallowed and said, at a volume designed for dogs and creeps, "Hey, not funny, go home." The pines held their breath and didn't answer. She went back inside and called the non-emergency sheriff line. It rang. She got a recording. Rural hours, rural resources. Fine. She dug out a big mag light and laid it next to the door. She put the kettle back on because the act of doing something helped. The cabin clock ticked like a metronome for a violinist who had stepped away. The first real knock came at 11:42 p.m. Not at the door at the back wall of the cabin where the bathroom was. One story up the slope, accessible by a narrow catwalk. 3 slow, heavy knocks, like the sound a fist makes on hollow plaster. She moved with the flashlight and swept the catwalk through the window, careful to keep her body out of the backlight. No shape, no breath smoke, only mist rising off the slope. The second knock came at the front, 2 quick raps on the porch rail, close enough that she felt the vibration through the floor. She stepped back, then forward, then back. Adrenaline scrambled her decisions. She wanted to shout that she had called the sheriff, that she had a dog, that she had a husband. None of those things were true except the first, and even that was a recording. The laugh came again, to her left this time, a little too loud, like a phone speaker half covered by a hand. It carried the strange flatness of something replayed. She pictured a person with their phone cupped, moving around the cabin, pressing play on a recording of a laugh that had never been real in the first place. She stepped into the kitchen, turned the oven on broil for heat and for light, and took the largest knife she owned. She went back to the door and listened. The night held. Somewhere down the mountain, an engine started, maybe the same one. It revved high and then receded. Wrong direction. Not uphill to the cabin, but farther down, away. At 8 a.m. Her phone buzzed. A text from her coworker finally pushed through. "What? You good?" She typed fast. "Someone's messing around outside. Car died on fire road." Then another knock, right next to the front door. So close she could see the wood flecks. She felt something like heat run from the base of her skull to her feet. She set the phone down, grabbed the mag light, and in a motion she had practiced only in imagination, yanked the door open with her left hand and threw the light hard into the night with her right. Pine trunks exploded into white detail. The porch rail gleamed. No person, no animal. Then, past the edge of the porch light, a figure stood at the road's edge, upslope from the gate. Tall, unmoving, shoulders a little too square, wearing what looked like a hood that blended with the dark. The maglite beam washed the figure's face, and for a split second, she thought she saw reflective tape where eyes should be. 2 perfect ovals built to answer light. "Leave," she said, because it was what she had. "Please leave." The figure didn't move. The laugh came again, from somewhere behind her, inside the house. She slammed the door, and ran through the rooms, light scorching the small spaces. Nothing. Nothing under the table, behind the couch, in the bathroom shower. The laugh was gone, but in her memory it had seemed to come from the ceiling. She looked up at 1 a.m. in a quiet cabin and understood she had to make a plan that didn't depend on anyone coming. She blew out the living room lights so she could see outside. She slung on her coat, shoved the knife in the inner pocket and the flashlight in the other, and moved a bookcase quickly but quietly in front of the door. Not as a real barricade, but as a sound trap. Then she slipped through the bedroom window onto the uphill side where the catwalk ran, stayed low, and scanned the slope. Nothing shifted but mist. She didn't go to the road. She moved up into the trees instead, where the chaparral made it hard to walk quietly and even harder to move fast. She knew, in a sudden bright way, that any chase on the open road would be someone else's advantage. In the brush, at least, everyone was clumsy. She climbed 20 yards, then 30, and turned to look back at the cabin. Her windows were dark squares. The bookcase cast a friendly rectangle of shadow. Then, like a stage cue, the porch light flicked on. She hadn't left it that way. She crouched lower. The front door opened inward a hand's width, just enough to make a line of black in the light. She felt the cold interest of being watched. She stayed absolutely still. Minutes grew long. The door didn't move again. The porch light didn't flicker. The figure by the road was gone, or had never been what she thought. She listened until the frogs came back, until tiny night noises brought the world back into its proportions. At dawn, she went down to the road with the biggest stick she could find, because weapons feel better than empty hands. There were tire tracks at the second bend, and a streak where a bumper or undercarriage had slid against the cutbank. There were prints in the mud from old boots and deer hooves. Near the porch, she found a shard of reflective tape stuck to a splinter on the rail, gray in the morning. The kind you put on a jogger's vest. She peeled it off with a thumbnail and threw it in the trash, then fished it out and put it in a plastic bag, then threw it away again. She didn't call the sheriff because she didn't know how to describe what she would be asking them to investigate. She moved 2 weeks later, telling her boss her commute had been too long. Sometimes, far from that cabin at the end of a fire road, she will hear a recorded laugh on a video and feel every hair on her forearms rise as if the woods had walked into the room. Evan was an ultralight backpacker who preferred shoulder season nights when campsites emptied and the trails went silent. He set out alone on a 2-night loop through a state forest known more for logging roads than marked paths. The forecast promised clear skies. The ranger at the trailhead simply said, "Watch your daylight. It disappears fast under the canopy." Evan smiled, signed the register, and stepped into a long corridor of pine and shadow. By dusk, he found a small, dry shelf above a creek. He pitched his tarp, strung his bear line, and cooked quietly with his headlamp snapped off, letting his eyes adjust to the dark. The creek murmured. Wind moved pine boughs in soft rattles. He had hiked alone often enough to read the ordinary woodland noises, rodents and duff, owls, branches settling after heat. Fear, for him, was usually a trick of the first night. When the whistling started, it sounded almost like a bird. 3 notes, descending, a little off-key. It came from upstream, then from downstream, impossibly fast, as if 2 sources were answering each other. He froze with his spoon mid-air. There was another whistle, closer, the same 3 notes. He thought, barred owl? But owls didn't imitate human-sounding patterns quite like that. He decided to try a test. He pursed his lips and whistled a simple 2-note pattern he used to call his dog as a kid. The creek and wind swallowed it. A moment later, the same 2-note pattern came back from the trees, softer, slightly wrong, like someone who'd heard it through a wall and tried to copy it. Evan felt adrenaline prickle in the scalp. He told himself it could be campers messing around on the other bank, or the acoustic oddities of ravines. He clicked on his red lamp and made small, purposeful noise, sealed his food bag, cinched it high on the line, raked leaves away from the stove spot. Then he heard brush compress under weight, not the scatter of a deer, the careful pressure of a foot adjusting its step. He forced himself to breathe slowly and tapped the metal pot with his spoon 3 bright, carrying notes. Instantly, from the dark, the same 3 pot notes echoed back, only duller, like struck against rock or bone. He packed with shaking hands. Lightness saved him, tarp down, quilt stuffed, stakes ripped out, everything into the pack in under 2 minutes. He could hike by star and creek sound if he had to. He shouldered the pack, turned off the lamp to save night vision, and stepped onto the faint game trail that paralleled the water. The wood's compressed branches brushed his sleeves. Roots tried to hook his toes. The creek was suddenly too loud. He walked quickly, then faster when he heard the footfalls again, paced to his speed, close enough for him to feel the air shift. He took a breath to shout and realized how quiet the forest was. No insects, no frogs. Silence like a lid on a jar. He cut uphill, away from the water, to break line of sound. Deadfall forced him into a ragged zigzag between blowdowns. After 50 yards, he crouched behind a fallen trunk to listen. The footfalls drifted below him, then stopped. He could hear his own blood. He waited, counting. 60 seconds, 90, 2 minutes. The whistling came again, just beyond the blowdown, as if whatever or whoever had kept pace with him without stepping on a twig. The same 2-note call he'd made, repeated 3 times. He closed his eyes, pressed his lips together, and didn't answer. He chose a brutal route, straight up the ridge to intersect a logging spur he'd crossed earlier. He climbed by hands and knees where necessary, tearing his palms on quartz. When he finally crested the ridge and found the old road, his legs shook. He put distance behind him, fast, not running but close to it, scanning for the reflector tack he'd placed in a tree as a personal breadcrumb. It flashed like a tiny star. He turned down a side spur that would, if memory held, meet the marked trail. The whistling followed the road from below, now fainter, now nearer, never breaking the same pattern. At one point, it came from ahead of him, as if something had circled. He thought about the trail register, the ranger's bored face, the way people sometimes went missing for reasons that never resolved into stories. He reached a signed junction relief like heat in his chest and committed to the main trail. The blazes were frequent. The footbed was clear. He moved faster. A mile later, at a shallow saddle, the forest regained its ordinary sounds in a flood. Katydids, a distant barred owl, something small scuttling. The whistling had stopped. He didn't camp. He walked through the night, reached the trailhead at 3:40 a.m., and sat in his car with the dome light on until the sun showed gray through fog. He debated telling someone. He considered the words. A whistle answered me. Footsteps mimicked pot sounds. It would sound unhinged. Maybe someone else was out there and thought the same of him. Back home, he unpacked in the morning light. His pot hung by its handle from the back of his pack. The metal was faintly scuffed, as if something had tapped it very lightly 3 times, leaving a smear that wasn't there yesterday. He cleaned it and put it away. He never went back to that forest. A week later, on a hiker forum, someone posted about hearing a strange 2-note whistle in the same area. In the thread, arguments broke out: owls, pranksters, acoustics. Evan closed the tab and, for a long time, never whistled again.
The lights finally receded. The night came roaring back all at once. We crawled on elbows toward the shallow ditch, then to the fence line, where the world turned into field. Carter was a darker shadow in the dark, only an outline, until I almost ran into him. His phone lay a few yards away, like a dropped star. He whispered the short version. The car had pulled over next to him. The driver had tried to get him inside, with no pretense at being helpful, and when Carter ran, the driver's patience had snapped. He'd gotten back in and tried to keep pace, thinking Carter would stick to the shoulder. He didn't. He dove into the grass and stayed there. At some point, the phone came out of his pocket and didn't make it with him. We stayed low and moved toward the faint promise of a gas station's glow. not along the road, but through what passed for a field uneven, damp, and punctuated by weeds that tugged at our jeans. Every few minutes we stopped and listened. Nothing. Then, for a while, something the far-off hum of tires, and we froze again, flat as we could make ourselves. It was impossible to measure time in the dark. The body became a series of small negotiations. Left knee, right calf, the weight of breath. When the white light of the station finally spilled over the horizon of the road, it felt like morning, even though it wasn't self. Inside, the single overnight clerk looked surprised to see two people come in from the side door, picking grass out of their sleeves. We paid too much for a red plastic can and filled it with the steadiness of people who have decided that getting back to the car is the second most important thing to do, and not dying is the first. On the walk back, we stayed in the field again. The road felt like a stage we had no business being on. When the Chevy came into view, a small dark animal curled on the shoulder. We didn't stand up until we were almost at the door. The can emptied into the tank with a glug that sounded like relief. The headlights came on, the engine turned over, the mirrors showed nothing. We merged onto the highway and didn't say much until the station's glow was a memory. At the next town, we stopped at a real pump and filled the tank until the handle clicked. The clerk there had stories, because they all do the kind that live behind a shake of the head and a "you be careful now." We called the police from the counter and gave them what we had, make and color. The way it moved, like it had all the time in the world. We sounded like tired people telling a bad dream to someone who wasn't in it. They didn't find him. I think about that sometimes, at red lights, when the night presses its forehead against the glass. The needle on the gas gauge never drops below half now. The dumb mistakes in life don't always bring their own consequences. I almost never remember motel faces, but I remember his. I was between jobs that fall and decided to save money by driving instead of flying to my dad's 50th. It meant 3 days of highway, rest stops, gas stations, and all the little in-betweens the mind forgets. The first night I pulled into a place that advertised color TV in a font that looked older than me. I slept fine. It was the morning that felt wrong. I opened the door with my bag on my shoulder and nearly ran into a man standing in the threshold, mid-40s, maybe older, heavy eyes like he hadn't slept in a long time, a mouth that didn't know where it should rest, somewhere between a frown and nothing at all. "Excuse me," I said, friendly, because that's the safest mask. I sidestepped. He didn't move at first, then he did, but only enough for me to squeeze by. As I ferried the rest of my stuff to the car, he stayed outside my door, tilted a fraction toward me, watching the way some people stare, not at you, but through the space you occupy. I put the last bag into the trunk and made sure he saw me lock the door. He still stood there when I drove away. By late afternoon, I had made decent time. The roads thinned from towns to two-lane stretches of nothing in particular, then thicker again near the outskirts of other towns. I stopped at a gas station to fill up and chase the dull ache behind my eyes with caffeine. The pump clicked. The coffee was whatever was left of the morning. When I came back out, a deep red Corolla had rolled close to my car, closer than people do on purpose. From the front, it looked like its bumper was kissing my bumper. The windshield was too dark to read. No one put a nozzle in their tank. No one got out. I took the nozzle from mine and returned it, pretending the world was normal. I pulled out of the lot, past the hand-lettered sign about bait and hot sandwiches. The Corolla pulled out too, neatly behind me, and merged onto the highway like it had practiced. I told myself it was nothing, and for an hour there was nothing I could prove. The light fell and the road turned into a street of headlights. Somewhere in the blur, the red car, if it was still there, was just one more commuter riding my shadow. I watched the time. I did the math. If I could make it another 2 hours, I'd get to a real city with real hotels where the night felt like it belonged to people again. Another gas station appeared on the horizon like a mirage of convenience, then up close, like a mistake store, dark open pumps only. I took the exit anyway. Gas was gas. The place had the lonely geometry of a spot designed for traffic that wasn't there. Sodium lights flattened everything. As I set the nozzle, a single pair of headlights turned off the empty highway and rolled down the ramp toward me. I knew the shape of that car before it was close enough to be a fact. It came in too fast and didn't even pretend to line up with a pump. It slid alongside my driver's door. I yanked the nozzle out, dropped it into the cradle, and got into my seat. The passenger door on the red car opened, and a man got out. Not the driver, the passenger. He jogged at my door and grabbed the handle. When the lock didn't give, he looked up into the glass, and in the pale wash of the canopy lights, I recognized him. The tired eyes from the motel, the face that wore wrong, like a shirt a size too small. I half expected anger to flare, some show of frustration, now that the handle wouldn't obey him. What I got was worse. He smiled. Not the polite kind or the taunting kind. The kind that says you've already lost. You just don't know the rules he's using. The engine turned over. I kept my eyes half on the mirror and half on the empty concrete in front of me. The red car sat there, driver unseen behind glass. The man's hand fell from the handle. He let my window hold his reflection for a heartbeat longer than casual, then stepped back. I pulled away without looking like I had anywhere better to be than the highway. I didn't stop until the lights of the city complicated the sky. I checked the mirrors more than any one person should. I let myself into a lobby that smelled like citrus and vacuumed carpet and asked for a room facing the lot. It wasn't that I thought I was followed. It was that it didn't matter what I thought. I slept with the TV on low and the chain on the door. Morning made the night seem like something I'd exaggerated. That's why daylight exists, to explain away what doesn't want to be explained. The miles fell away again. I planned the next stop, and this time aimed for a busy exit with bright logos and the comfort of other people's errands. The city shrank in the rear view. The land opened up and swallowed my sense of scale. Just past dusk, a red car merged a few vehicles back. I didn't want to see it. I saw it anyway. Could have been any red car. Could have been a trick of taillights and my own poor sleep. The old motel door. The smile at the pump. The passenger seat, not the driver's. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles had their own opinion and told myself that the odds of it being the same car, the same people, were small. An hour later, the highway emptied like a party. Everyone suddenly realized they were late leaving. I didn't see the red car again. I rounded curves of road that were just road and counted the occasional signs like they could count me back. The next big city was still 2 hours away. My head nodded once, twice, and I decided to stop for coffee, not because I believed it would save me, but because the ritual of it might. The next exit promised a station. It delivered a closed store and the nothing around it. That was when I remembered there was no rule that the bad parts only happen once. The station's lights threw a square of safety that didn't feel like enough. I put gas in the tank because that was what I had come for, and midway through, I saw headlights descend the ramp. The car took the curve and pointed at me like a finger. It was red. It was the same. This time, I didn't need the passenger to show his face to know. I replaced the nozzle. The red car slid to a stop, tight to my driver's side again, closer than before. The passenger door opened. The grin was in place before he had fully straightened. He didn't run. He didn't have to. He reached for the handle almost gently, like opening a gift he already knew the contents of. The lock held because I had planned for it to. The engine started because I made sure the key was in my hand. I backed out hard enough to make the tires complain and put the nose toward the ramp. In the mirror, the passenger was still smiling. The driver never showed himself. I hit the highway and and didn't slow down until the city took me in for the second time in 2 nights. There, in a parking lot big enough to feel safe in, I let my hands stop shaking. Then I did the sane thing. I reported it. I sat under a fluorescent hum and told a man in a blue shirt what the man in the passenger seat looked like and what kind of car it was and how I hadn't gotten a plate number because fear doesn't sort the world into useful details. He wrote and nodded and said they'd put out a notice. They didn't find them. Maybe they weren't looking. Maybe they looked, and the red car didn't belong to the day any more than it belonged to the night. I checked in and went up on an elevator that talked to itself. I slept with my keys on the nightstand and the heavy curtain drawn. The next day should have been the end of it. That's how stories like to be told, beginning, middle, end. I drove through towns whose names I didn't pronounce out loud. I ate something from a window and drank something from a bottle and kept the gas gauge honest. The horizon stole the sun in a slow trick. It was almost full dark when a red car merged a few lanes over. I told myself the world is big and cars are many, and no one follows anyone for more than 10 hours for nothing. The red car drifted behind a semi and stayed there. I didn't stare. I watched the road, the white zipper lines drawing me forward. The red car changed lanes when I did. I signaled right, then left, then stayed. It stayed. When I finally took an exit, not because I needed to, but because I needed to see what stayed with me, the red car took it too. The ramp stretched, and there was an empty overpass and a silent office park with a dead fountain. I didn't slow. The red car didn't either. At the next on-ramp, I swept back onto the interstate as if I had made a mistake, as if I was embarrassed by my own detour. The red car continued onto a frontage road and disappeared behind the long body of a warehouse. Maybe that was the goodbye they wanted to give me, that they could leave whenever they chose. I made the rest of the drive in one push. The way people do when bed is a promise they want to call in. I parked in my parents' driveway and sat there with the engine off, listening to the tick of the cooling block like a small-time bomb counting down to nothing. Inside, there were voices and cake, and the past printed on photo paper. I told no one. What would I say? That a man had smiled at me like I was part of a joke I hadn't been told? Weeks later, when the roads in my head had finally gone quiet, a thought knocked. He got out of the passenger seat both times. Someone else was driving. Someone else sat behind glass and learned what my car looked like at night and how I merged and whether I checked my mirrors with the frequency of a careful person or the arrogance of a tired one. The smile wasn't a performance for me. It was a conversation with whoever held the wheel. That was when the fear changed shape. It was no longer about being alone with a stranger. It was about being the only one who didn't know who the other person was. One man can mean trouble. Two can mean a plan. And a plan can mean the first time wasn't meant to be the last. I keep the doors locked now, even when I'm sitting in the car with the map. I was across the country for winter break, with more highway ahead of me than I had patience for, and less money than would make it comfortable. That meant no motels. I packed 2 blankets, and told myself that sleeping a few hours at a rest area was no different than napping at home on the couch, except for the part where the dark was bigger. It was a little past 1 a.m. when the road started to fold and unfold in front of my eyes, the way it does when the body is finished for the day, but the day won't end. The blue sign promised a rest area in 2 miles, and I took it like a promise. It was one of the small pull-offs tucked next to the interstate, a short lot, a low building with bathrooms, and a couple of vending machines humming like insects. One other car sat at the far end, and I parked at the opposite side on purpose, as if distance could be respect. I stretched, used the restroom, and came back out with the tired relief of someone who has negotiated with their own limits and lost in a way that feels like winning. A man stood outside my window. He wasn't pretending to fix anything or look at anything. He was just there, peering into the glass, like the car was an aquarium and I was supposed to be swimming in it. Can I help you? I asked, and my voice made him jump. Thought you might be in there, he said, chuckling in a way that didn't match his face. Just wanted to ask if you had cash for the vending machine. My car might as well have been made of clear plastic. Anyone could see whether I was in it or not. He didn't need to be that close. Sorry, no cash, I said. I edged around him and got in. He stepped back a couple of feet, raised a hand in apology, then walked down to the other car and got in. I should have left. That's the sentence I would write onto the night if I could, but tired people are optimists at the wrong times. I moved the junk out of my front seat, slid the seat back, and closed my eyes. The world turned into slow breath and the soft tick of cooling metal. Light moved where light shouldn't. I opened my eyes and sat up. The man had moved his car right up behind mine, close enough that I couldn't see his bumper because my rear window framed nothing but glare. I watched in the mirror for a full minute, waiting for a reason that made sense. It didn't arrive. I put the seat upright, started the engine, and left. The highway felt safer than the little square of lit pavement I trusted. There weren't many places to stop for a long stretch, so the decision cost me time I didn't have, and I paid in drowsiness. The eyelids thing, the 1-2 of closing and snapping open that feels like surfacing from a too-deep pool. I promised myself the next possible spot would be enough, even if it was worse. The next rest area looked like a memory of one. Barricade tape hung limp over a dark doorway. The walls had been signed by kids with paint and no patience. The lot was empty. It was quiet in the way abandoned places make their own weather. I parked where the lights still worked, such as they did, and sleep took me like a hand over my eyes. The crash woke me, and the world was both all sound and no sound. The shudder of impact, and then the ringing of the nerves after. Headlights sat behind me like two new moons. On my right, a shadow resolved into a man with a metal bat. He swung again, and the back window didn't crack so much as explode into diamonds that my brain tried to make into patterns. My hands fumbled for the keys, while my mouth said the one useless thing it knew how to say. What the fuck? He stepped up to the passenger window, and I saw his face. It was the same man from the other rest stop. His smile didn't belong to the situation. He tapped the bat against the glass once, like he was at a door. He mouthed a word, and then didn't bother with mouthing it. He said it. Liar. I don't know what he thought I lied about. Maybe the vending machine change. Maybe about being alone. Maybe that I would stay. He hit the passenger window, and it held. Then he hit it again, and it didn't. I turned the engine, got it into drive, and the car lurched forward on the first try because luck sometimes remembers to show up. I took the exit back to the interstate, dirty, fast, and loud. My phone shook in my hand while I told the dispatcher what had just happened in a voice that sounded like someone else's. She told me where to go. I pulled into a gas station that had a bright interior and the kind of clerk who looks up when the door chime rings with urgency instead of routine. The first officer's notepad made more sense than my description. He asked. I answered. We made a shape of the night that looked like something you could file. A second officer went to the rest area. He came back with the things stories leave behind when they're finished glass on the pavement, nothing else. My doors were dented, and the back right tire was bleeding air. I hadn't felt the slashed rubber in my scramble to get away. Adrenaline narrows the world. I didn't drive anywhere else that night. I didn't go home for a few days. I learned the names of a couple of mechanics and how long it takes to replace 2 windows and a tire in a town where the parts aren't in stock. I learned that we'll keep an eye out is both reassurance and confession. The officers took my statement and put a description out. No one called me back. No one caught anyone. I keep replaying the smallest loop, a stranger asking for cash at 1 a.m. The car pulled close. the move to behind my bumper, the smile that didn't match the behavior, the word liar like an accusation tossed into the night to see what it sticks to. I think maybe that was the point. People like him don't need a reason. They need a story where they get to be the one with the bat, and the rest of us are just extras who learned the lesson late. Now, I don't mistake proximity for safety. I don't sleep at places that aren't made for sleeping, no matter how tired. If I have to stop, I stop in motion. Well-lit stations with people coming and going, cameras, noise. I lock the doors while I'm inside the car, even if the keys are in my hand. I leave when the hairs on my arms say leave, not after I've argued with them. On good drives, I forget for a while. On bad ones, every headlight behind me is a memory practicing being something else. I don't know why he chose that word, or why he wanted me to hear it. I only know that some nights are tests someone else decided to give, and passing is just getting to the morning.
Fade in. Ext. Abandoned farmhouse night. Wind howls across barren fields under a pale, broken moon. The farmhouse sits like a carcass. Windows empty. Door hanging loose. A rusty sign creaks on a chain. Property condemned. Int. Farmhouse. Living room. Night. Dust and mold cloud the stale air. Wallpaper peels. A broken rocking chair sways, although no wind touches it. Jason, 28, a skeptical paranormal investigator with a camera hanging from his neck, pushes the door wider. Behind him trails his twin sister, Mara, 28, tense, clutching an EMF meter that flickers faintly. Jason, recording on camera, farmhouse, rural Ohio. Reported hauntings for over 30 years. No trespassing signs everywhere. Perfect. Mara, Jason, it smells like something died in here. Jason, everything smells like death in your head. Relax. These locals just want to scare strangers. The EMF clicks harder. Faster lights spike.
Did you hear that?
Mara, tell that to the meter.
What was
Jason
that?
waves dismissively. Int, farmhouse, hallway, night. They move slowly down a corridor, their flashlight beams jittering across old family photos. Faces blurred, eyes scratched out, every frame defaced. Suddenly, thud, both freeze. Mara, Jason. That came from upstairs. Jason. Probably raccoons. The long dragging sound echoes above like furniture scraping. Too heavy for animals. Mara tightens grip on her meter. Int. Farmhouse. Upstairs, night. They climb stairs that groan beneath every step. Flashlight cuts across a child's bedroom. Toys scattered, mold creeping over blankets. On the wall, in childish handwriting scratched into plaster, one repeating phrase. He lives inside. Has another blay. Let us dare. Mara, whispering. What the hell? Suddenly, something shuffles in the corner. Jason swings his light. Only a collapsed wardrobe. Then bang! The wardrobe door slams on its own. Mara yelps, steps back. Jason camera, steady, trying to act fearless. Classic haunting script. Door slam. Yawn. But Mara notices something in the dust on the floorboard. Footprints. Bare, long, misshapen, leading out of the wardrobe. Int. Master bedroom. Night. They step into a larger ruined room. A bed frame rotting. Curtains shredded. On the far wall, a mirror, tall. Cracked down the middle, the glass ripples faintly, like water. Jason approaches, fascinated. Jason. Okay, that's new. Mara, Jason. Don't. He touches it. The glass trembles like a pond surface. His reflection does not move. Instead, his reflection grins wide, grotesque, though Jason's real face stays neutral. Mara gasps, drops her meter. Mara. Back away. The reflection tilts its head, eyes rolling black. Jason stumbles back. Sudden whispering fills the air. Overlapping voices, Hollow. 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 The mirror bulges outward like something pressing to emerge. Mara grabs Jason. Mara. We're leaving. Now. They turn. The bedroom door slams shut. Int. Master bedroom. Continuous. They bang on the locked door. Jason. It's a trick. It's, but he falters as the voices grow louder. The mirror surface bursts like liquid. From inside steps. The Hollow Man. 7 feet tall, skin stretched paper thin over ribs. His face, a collapsing hole where features should be just black emptiness. Every breath is a ragged wheeze, as though drawn from an infinite pit. Mara screams. Mara, whispering. Oh God. He's real. Jason terrified. Denying. No props are this good. No suit. The Hollow Man shifts his head toward Jason. The void where eyes should be locks on him, his reflection still grinning in the mirror. Int. Master bedroom. Seconds later, Jason raises his camera shakily. Jason to camera. Panicked. This is real. If anyone sees this, he's real. Suddenly, the Hollow Man blurs forward. Faster than sight, Jason chokes a hand of nothingness, shoved into his chest. His body seizes. The camera drops, lying sideways on the bed. Still recording. Through its angle, we see Jason convulsing as the Hollow Man pulls something out of him. Not flesh, not blood. His shadow. Jason's body goes limp. His shadow stays suspended in the Hollow Man's grasp, twitching like prey. Jason crumples to the floor, eyes open, pupils blank hollow. His twin sister shrieks. Mara, Jason. She lunges with the EMF meter and smashes it against the thing's head. Sparks burst. The Hollow Man staggers briefly, shrieking like wind through a cavern. Mara grabs Jason's limp body, dragging him, but he's dead weight, soulless. Int. Upstairs hallway. Continuous. Mara drags Jason out, the Hollow Man's footsteps pounding behind. Slow, but inescapable. Every photo frame now bleeds pitch black ichor from the eyes. Whispers echo. Hollow. 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 Mara tries the stairwell, but it's gone. Just a wall. She spins corridor, stretching impossibly long now. Doors multiplying endlessly. Mara. No. Jason mumbles, suddenly half-conscious. But his voice is different. Flat. Empty. Jason, soulless. Don't run. He wants us together. Mara screams, dropping him. Int. Endless hallway. Night. Lights flicker. The Hollow Man's shape grows nearer, impossibly stretching down the warped corridor. Mara, crying, claws open a random door. Inside, another mirror. Her reflection, alive, intact. Her reflection looks more real than she does. It beckons silently. Behind her, Jason's husk starts to stand jerky, puppet-like. Jason's voice, layered with whispers. Come inside. It's better. No pain. The Hollow Man looms behind him. Mara shakes, torn. She steps toward the mirror hand trembling, but at the last moment, she yanks away. Mara, screaming. You won't have me. She hurls a heavy chair through the mirror. Glass. Explodes. For a second, the corridor screams, walls cracking, reality warping with static. The Hollow Man howls, collapsing into flickering shapes. Mara runs. Int. Farmhouse. Front door. Night. She bursts downstairs, through the broken front door, into night air, panting. Cold. Heart racing. Behind her, the farmhouse is deathly silent. Still. Normal. She stumbles into the field, kneels in mud, sobbing relief. Mara, whispering. It's over. It's over. She looks up. Across the field, every window of the farmhouse is filled with one silhouette. The Hollow Man, multiplied, standing in every frame. Watching, Mara goes pale. Mara, no. Suddenly she hears it. Behind her, Jason's voice. Close. Jason, soulless. Whisper. You didn't run fast enough." She turns. Jason stands beside her. His EY, hollow. Blackness floods her vision. Int. Farmhouse. Master bedroom. Unknown time. The camera still lies on the bed, filming. Jason and Mara now both stand before the mirror, motionless, lifeless. Reflections, smiling wide. The hollow man moves between them, stretching taller, swallowing the frame. The recording glitches. We hear their voices layered with the chorus of whispers. Hollow, hollow, hollow. Fade out. End of story 1. Fade in. XD. Rural highway. Night. An old pickup rumbles down a desolate 2-lane road. Trees crowd both sides, gnarled. Skeletal. Branches clawing overhead. Inside. Clara, 34. A weary schoolteacher squints at the road. Her teenage son, B.E.N., sleeps slumped in the passenger seat. Storm clouds roll overhead. Clara, to herself. Of course it has to start raining now. Rain spatters the windshield. Wipers squeak. The GPS on the dash glitches. Voice stuttering. GPS voice. Reach Des T Na. Error. The screen goes black. Back road. Night. Continuous. The pickup sputters. Lights dim. Engine dies. Clara curses. Pulls to the shoulder. Clara. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. She shakes Ben awake. Clara, Ben. We broke down. Ben, groggy. Huh? Where are we? Clara, lost. That's where. They both look out. No signs of civilization. Just forest. Strange. Silent forest. Exterior. Pickup. Woods. Night. Clara pops the hood. Steam. She swears under her breath. Ben peers out into the tree line uneasily. Ben. Do you hear that? Clara perks up. Only silence. Rain has stopped. Then, a faint sound, like crying. A woman's voice. Deep in the woods. Clara. Probably some animal. But the sound grows clearer, sobbing. Real. Human. Ben stares at her, eyes wide. Ben, Mom. Someone's out there. Clara, hesitant but concerned, grabs a flashlight. Clara, stay here. Lock the doors. Ben shakes his head violently. Ben, no way I'm staying alone in the car. She sighs, relents. Together, they step off the road. Next, forest. Night. Flashlight beam cuts through the trees. The crying grows louder. Soft at first, but layered like several voices overlapping. Ben clutches his mother's arm. The woods feel unnatural. Bark warped, branches twisted. Entire trees look as though they're frozen mid-scream. Ben, whisper, I want to go back. Clara, just a little further. If someone's hurt, we can't ignore it. They press deeper. XT. Clearing in the woods. Night. Flashlight reveals a circle of stones. In the center, a pit filled with murky water reflecting moonlight. Beside it kneels a woman, long black hair covering her face. Shoulders shaking with sobs. Clara steps forward cautiously. Clara. Hey, miss, are you okay? Do you need help? The woman keeps weeping, unmoving. Ben hides half behind his mother. Clara reaches out, places a hand on the woman's shoulder. The woman sobs. Stop. Silence. Slowly, her head turns nearly a full 180 degrees. Her face is not human. A hollow mask of bark, wet with sap that looks like tears. Her jaw unhinges. A shriek pierces the clearing. Dozens of faces bubble up in the water, pit distorted, drowned, wailing. Ben screams. X10. Running through forest. Night. Clara yanks Ben's hand. They run blindly through the woods. The trees groan. Branches crack. Shadows move alongside them. Behind the sound of weeping multiplies. Not one voice, hundreds. Ben. They're following us. Clara glances back. Shapes glimpse between trees. Tall, elongated. Faces of wood streaked with black tears. Clara shouted. Don't look back. Just run. Int. Abandoned cabin. Night. They stumble into a clearing, spotting a decrepit log cabin. Clara forces the door inside, dark, dusty, rotten, but shelter. They slam the door, panting. Ben collapses against a wall, trembling. Ben, what were they? Clara grips him tightly. Clara, I don't know. Suddenly, a loud cry outside, pressed right against the wall. Wood creaks under unseen weight, then another, then dozens. Surrounding the cabin, the weeping woods have found them. Int, cabin, night, continuous. The sobbing grows unbearable, walls vibrating. Ben plugs his ears. Clara grabs an old fireplace poker. Shaking, the window rattles, then shatters. Long wooden arms pushing through, fingers like roots clawing inward. Clara, stay behind me. One arm grabs her wrist. She stabs it with the poker. Sap like ichor sprays black, hissed like steam. The arm recoils, but more force their way in. Ben. They're everywhere. Clara drags him upstairs. The old staircase trembling under their steps. Int. Cabin. Upstairs. Night. They barricade inside a bedroom, shoving a wardrobe against the door. Sobbing now mixed with whispers. Join us. Join us. Join us. Ben shakes violently. His nose bleeds. Ben. Mom. I think they're in my head. Suddenly he starts to see our why. Not his own tears, thick black liquid streaming. Clara gasps in horror. Clara, no. Fight it, Ben. He screams, clutching his face. His voice comes out layered. Not his own. Ben. Whispering. The forest remembers. It takes everyone. Clara hugs him, desperately. Clara, please. It's just us. Just you and me. They can't take you. But the whispers grow louder. Int. Cabin. Upstairs. Continuous. The wardrobe blocking the door begins to slide, shoved by unseen strength. The wall behind the bed cracks, branches snaking through. Dozens of wooden masks press from outside. Faces sobbing, wailing. Clara screams, holding Ben. Suddenly his sobbing stops. He goes eerily calm in her arms. She pulls back in terror. Ben lifts his face, eyes hollow, streaming black. He smiles faintly, whispers, Ben, don't be scared, Mom. It doesn't hurt. Clara's tears fall freely. Clara, weeping. No, you're still in there. Please. The voices all around rise in unison. Weep with us. Weep with us. The wardrobe bursts. Figures pour into the room, twisted wooden bodies. Bark faces slick with black tears. They surround mother and son. Clara screams, holding Ben close. He doesn't resist. Together, they are swallowed in shadows. XT. Highway. Morning. The broken pickup still sits silent on the roadside. Sunlight filters across the woods. From far away, it looks peaceful. Still, but faintly. Drifting from the trees, the sound of weeping fade out. End of story 2. Fade in. XD. Suburban house. Night. A modest 1,970s home sits under dim street lamps. Lawn overgrown. Curtains drawn. Rain pelts down. Steady and cold. A moving truck idles in the driveway. Inside car. Ray, 42. A divorced father, stares at the house wearily. Beside him, his teenage daughter, Lila, 16, looks unimpressed. Headphones around her neck. Lila under her breath. Great. Another haunted shack. Ray. It's not haunted. It's cheap. Big difference. They climb out, umbrellas up, trudging toward their fresh start. Int. House. Living room. Night. Stacks of boxes. Plastic furniture covers. The place smells like mildew. Ray fumbles with a rusty breaker switch. Lights flicker to life dim amber glow. Ray. Optimistic. See? Just needs a little love. Lila. Or an exorcism. Int. Basement door. Later, as boxes are unpacked, Lila notices a wooden door under the staircase. It appears recently painted over. scratched faintly into the paint. Do not open. Lila arches a brow. Lila. Yeah, not creepy at all. Ray notices too. Rolls his eyes. Ray. Probably just old tenants messing around, but when he tries the knob, it's locked. Int. Ray's bedroom. Night. Ray flips through documents. Lease papers. A line in red stamp. Previous occupant did not complete term. He frowns, unsettled, from downstairs. A faint sound. Static. Like a tape recorder clicking on. He freezes. Int. Living room. Basement door. Night. Ray tiptoes down, listening. The static grows louder clearly from behind the basement door. Voice on tape. Muffled. Low. Distorted. Help me. Ray's blood runs cold. He grabs a crowbar, pries the door open. Pitch black stairwell yawns into the basement. The sound of the tape recorder louder now. A voice cyclical, repeating. Voice on tape. Help me. He's down here. Int. Basement. Night. Ray descends slowly, flashlight trembling. The basement is huge, unfinished. Damp concrete, piles of old furniture. In the center, a dusty reel-to-reel tape player spinning on its own. Ray approaches, presses stop. The player clicks off. Silence. From across the basement, a voice. Not from the machine. Weiss. Why did you stop it? Ray WHIRL's flashlight beam cuts across. Only shadows. Int. Basement. Deeper area. Ray ventures deeper. There's another smaller room beyond a cracked concrete wall. Inside, rows of tapes stacked on shelves. Hundreds. Each labeled with dates spanning decades. He picks one. Dusty label. Nav 1987. Attempt 4. He puts it in the player. A man's voice crackles out. Tape voice. Day 14. The thing in the basement demands I keep recording. They won't let me sleep. My family is gone. God forgive me. I think it took them because I tried to stop. Tape clicks. Silence. Then faint. Screaming in the background before cut off. Ray shuts the machine. Horrified. Int. Upstairs. Lila's room. Same time. Lila sits, scrolling her phone. Suddenly she hears a voice like her father, but distorted, calling faintly from the vent. Ray's voice, from vent. Lila. Come down. I found something. She pulls her headphones down. Lila, Dad. The voice repeats same intonation. Identical. Too exact. Like playback. Uneasy. She steps into the hall. Int. Basement. Night. Lila creeps downstairs. Ray spins. Startled. Ray, Lila. No, go back upstairs. But she's already in the basement. Immediately, all the tapes begin to click and WHIR simultaneously. Their reels spin, voices overlapping in chaos. Help me. Stop him. It hurts. You can't leave. Lila clutches her ears. Lila, shouting, make it stop. The shelves tremble, tapes falling like rain. From the shadows emerges a figure, at first man-shaped, wearing ragged clothing, but the nearer it comes, its body shifts and warps made of tangled magnetic tape, unraveling and twisting like intestines. Its face flickers static like a broken TV. The tape man. Int. Basement. Continuous. The tape man's voice layers hundreds of old recordings. Tape man. Echoed. You press play. Now. You must record. It lunges. Magnetic tape whips outward, wrapping Ray's wrists, burning into skin like hot wire. He screams. Lila grabs a fallen crowbar, swings wildly, cuts through some of the tape strands. The creature recoils, briefly, hissing static. Ray pulls free, gasping. Ray, upstairs, now. They run. Int. Living room. Night. They burst into the living room, slamming the basement door behind them. Ray shoves a chair under the handle. Silence. Then thud. Thud. Tape snakes slither from beneath the doorframe. Lila cries out. She and Ray run deeper into the house. Int. Kitchen. Night. Ray digs through drawers for something, a knife. Lila clutches her phone. Shaky. Lila, call someone. Please. Ray musters strength, hurling himself between her and the tape man. Ray's body becomes entangled, pulled into its static maw, sucked into the reels. Ray, screaming, I love you. He vanishes inside. Static explodes, blowing Lila back. When she looks up, the tape man is gone. The room perfectly still. Only thing left, a new tape reel lying on the floor. Label, Ray, final recording. Lila stares at it, trembling, tears falling. She hears faintly from the reel her father's voice, muffled in agony. Ray, on tape. Lila, break it, please. She raises the crowbar, shaking, but hesitates. Her reflection in the window shows her already holding the tape, yet smiling. Int, basement. Days later, neighbors stand outside the house. Police tape across the door. Officers descend into the basement. One finds the shelves still filled with hundreds of tapes. He pulls one at random. Label, August 28, 2025. Attempt 1. Curious. He plays it. From the speaker. Lila's voice. Lila. On tape. This is Lila. The basement wants more recordings. It already has Dad, but it's not enough. The officer frowns, then glances around nervously. From the darkness behind him, reels begin to spin, fade out. End of story 3.
Act 1. The Introduction. Extend. Suburban street. Day. A quiet neighborhood on a sunny afternoon. Saturday, the 23rd of August, 2025. Imai, 32. Single mom, tired eyes. Unloads groceries from her car. Her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, plays in the yard. Across the street, Mr. Harris, 52nd, balding, unassuming, waters his lawn, glancing over occasionally. Emily waves politely. Emily, cheerful afternoon. Mr. Harris, hot one today. Mr. Harris, smiling thinly. Indeed, Emily. You and Lily staying safe? Emily nods, ushering Lily inside. As they enter the house, Mr. Harris's smile fades. He adjusts a small camera hidden in his bushes, pointed at Emily's front door. Int, Emily's living room, night. Emily tucks Lily into bed. The house is cozy but cluttered. She checks her phone. A text from an unknown number. Sweet dreams. Watched you today. Emily frowns, deletes it. Probably spam. Cut to Act 2. The Escalation. Int. Emily's kitchen. Morning. Next day. Emily sips coffee, scrolling news on her laptop. Another text. Love the blue dress. Wear it more. She freezes. Glances out the window. Mr. Harris is mowing his lawn, waving again. Emily whispering to herself. Coincidence? She calls her friend, Sarah, 32nd, supportive. Emily, on phone. Sarah, these texts, they're creeping me out, like someone's watching. Sarah, over phone, block the number, could be a prank, or that weird neighbor of yours. Emily laughs it off, but installs a security app on her phone. XT, Emily's backyard, afternoon. Lily plays with dolls. Emily works from home, glancing up occasionally. She notices footprints in the soft soil near the fence leading toward Mr. Harris's yard. That night, Emily hears scratching at the back door. She peeks out. Nothing. But her trash bin is overturned. Contents rifle through old mail with her address scattered. Text arrives. Found your bank statement. Be careful with finances. Emily's heart races. She dials the police. Police dispatch. Non-emergency? We'll send someone tomorrow. Int. Emily's bedroom. Late night. Emily bolts the doors, sets up a makeshift alarm with pins. She researches Mr. Harris online. Nothing suspicious, just a retired accountant. But paranoia sets in. She hears footsteps outside her window. She grabs a kitchen knife, creeps to the window, peers out. Mr. Harris's silhouette in his upstairs window, binoculars in hand, staring directly at her house. Emily whispering, terrified, "Oh God." Act 3, the confrontation. That's at dawn. Emily confronts Mr. Harris as he retrieves his newspaper. Emily, voice, shaking. "Stop it. The texts. The watching leave us alone." Mr. Harris, confused, then smirking. "Texts? Emily, I've been trying to protect you. Saw a stranger lurking last week. Installed cameras for the neighborhood's sake." He points to a neighborhood watch sign. Emily backs away, doubting herself. Int. Emily's house. Dot. Evening. Police arrive. A young officer, 22nd. "Officer, no evidence of stalking, ma'am. Mr. Harris showed us his footage. Nothing unusual. Maybe change your number?" Emily nods, defeated. That night, she double-checks locks. Lily sleeps soundly, but as Emily drifts off, her phone buzzes. "Police can't help. I know where Lily's school is." She bolts up, dials 911. Sirens wail in the distance. EXT. Mr. Harris's house, N.I.T. Police knock on his door. He answers, innocent. They find a burner phone in his basement. Logs matching the texts. Hidden photos of Emily and Lily plastered on walls. Mr. Harris, calmly, as he's cuffed. She needed watching. For her own good. Emily watches from her window, hugging Lily. But as the cop car pulls away, her phone buzzes one last time from a new number. "I'm not the only one." Fade out. The end. X2 Remote Forest Road, dusk. Saturday, the 23rd of August, 2025. Mark 35, outdoorsy, stressed from city life, drives a rented SUV with his girlfriend, Jen 32, anxious. They're escaping for a weekend in a secluded cabin. Mark, this'll be great. No signal, no distractions, just us. Jen, nervous. As long as bears don't visit. They arrive at the cabin. Rustic, isolated, surrounded by dense woods. No neighbors for miles. Mark unloads bags. Jen checks her phone. No bars.
No service.
Int. Cabin living room. Night. They build a fire, share wine. Laughter echoes.
So good
But
to
outside,
be here.
faint rustling branches, animals. Jen peers out the window. Darkness swallows everything. Cut to Act 2. The unsettling. Int. Cabin bedroom. Midnight. Mark sleeps. Jen wakes to knocking at the front door. She shakes him. Jen, Mark.
Someone's here!
Someone's here.
Probably
Mark.
wind.
Groggy. Probably wind. The knocking persists, deliberate. Mark grabs a flashlight and axe from the tool shed, approaches the door. Mark, yelling. Who's there? No answer. He opens it. Empty porch. But footprints in the mud, fresh, boot-sized, circling the cabin. Jen, we should leave. Mark road's too dark. Morning. They barricade the door. Hours pass. Then, scratching on the walls like nails dragging. Jen hyperventilates. Jen, this isn't animals. Call for help. No signal. Mark ventures outside with the axe. He finds a discarded cigarette butt, still warm, human. Back inside, they huddle. Whispers from outside. Indistinct, mocking. Voice, OS, muffled. Let me in, cold out here. Jen screams. Mark swings the axe at the door, yelling threats. Silence follows.
Come on! Open
Dawn
this door!
Dawn C. They pack to leave. Mark starts the SUV, engine sputters, dead. Wires cut under the hood. Mark, someone sabotaged it. Panic sets in. They hike toward the main road, but the path is overgrown. Footsteps trail them in the woods parallel, unseen. Jen, whispering, "It's following us." They find an old hunting blind. Inside, fresh food wrappers, a map of the area with their cabin circled. Act 3, The Revelation. Start. Forest clearing. Afternoon. Exhausted, they spot a ranger station in the distance. But a man 42nd, disheveled, wild eyes, steps out from the trees, holding a hunting knife. Man, grinning, tourists. Always so easy. This is my woods. You trespassed. Mark raising axe. Back off. We're leaving. The man lunges. Struggle ensues. Mark fights him off, axe grazing the man's arm. Jen grabs a rock, smashes his knee. He flees into the brush, cursing. They reach the station, empty, but a landline works. Rangers arrive. Ranger poacher, been squatting in these woods for months. Targets cabins for supplies and fun. As they're driven out, Jen spots the man watching from the tree line, bandaged but smiling. The ranger assures them he's gone. But back in the city, weeks later, Jen finds a note in her mailbox. Missed you in the woods. City ain't safe either. Fade out. The end.
The Silent Watcher. Some eyes.
After moving into a quiet suburb, a young woman receives letters from an unknown watcher who seems to know intimate details of her life and her house. Int. Sarah's kitchen. Morning. Soft autumn light. Sarah, 28, in a worn blue robe, makes coffee. She rubs a small tear near the left shoulder, absent-mindedly. Next, a driveway. Morning. Sarah approaches her car. A cream envelope is tucked under the wiper. Sarah, in careful block letters. She opens it. Insert, "Welcome to the neighborhood, Sarah. You look beautiful in that blue robe you wear when you make coffee, the one with the small tear near the left shoulder." Sarah freezes, scanning the backyard. Int. Living room. Night. Curtains drawn. Doors checked. Deadbolt clicks. She sets her phone on the table, screen lit with emergency 911. Int. Entryway. Afternoon. A letter slides through the mail slot. Sarah returns from work and sees it on the rug. Insert. You close the curtains now, but I still see you. Thursday. Taking the trash out in your red sweater. You sensed me, didn't you? Int. Police station, evening. Officer Martinez, 32nd, flips through photos of the letters. Martinez, any exes? Conflicts? Someone with a grudge? Sarah number? I just moved here. Martinez, will increase patrols, install cameras, call if it escalates, montage home security. Sarah installs cameras, have front and back doors, motion lights, a new deadbolt. Draws a simple map of her home, marking camera coverage. The north wall remains unmarked. Int. Bedroom. Night. 3 a.m. A whisper of paper sliding under the front door wakes Sarah. She waits, then tiptoes out. Int. Hallway. Entry. Continuous. A letter on the floor. Insert. 2:47 a.m. You sleep on your side facing the window. Your cameras don't cover the north side. That's where I like to stand. Your little nightmare sounds are endearing. She presses a speed dial. Exit bedroom window. Later. Flashlights sweep earth. Martinez crouches, Clear shoe prints under the window. Martinez. Fresh prints. This helps, but without a face. Sarah. He watches me sleep. Martinez. We'll get you a panic button. Int. Bedroom. Dusk. Sarah notices her childhood stuffed elephant, Mr. Peanuts, missing a button eye. Next letter in her hand. Insert. There's a gap behind your garden shed, and your basement window doesn't latch. I've been inside. I know about Mr. Peanuts. Xed basement window. Night. Detective Williams, 52nd, examines a loosened latch. Williams. You should stay elsewhere for a few nights. Sarah. I won't be chased out of my house. Int. Living room. Night. Every light on. Panic button in her fist. 2:30 a.m. A single upstairs floorboard creaks. Int. Bedroom. Continuous. A letter on her pillow. Hello, Sarah. I'm still here. Closet door slightly ajar. Hallway. A figure in dark clothes, face lost in shadow, stands utterly still. Sarah. Who are you? Voice calm, conversational, someone who knows you. I like your independence. Distant sirens approach. Sarah. The police are coming. Voice, I'll be gone before they arrive. I always am. Sarah, why are you doing this? Voice, because you need someone watching over you. Footsteps recede. Back door clicks. Int. Living room. Later. Officers swarm. Williams takes notes. Williams' average height? Male? Sarah voice was male. That's all. Williams, we'll post an officer outside tonight. Int. Hotel room. Night. Phone rings. Private call. Voice. Hello, Sarah. Sarah. How did you get this number? Voice. I have all your numbers. I called to say goodbye. I heard you're leaving for Portland. Sarah, how? Voice. I pay attention. It's how I protect you. Like the gas leak in your basement, the inspector missed. Sarah falters. Voice soft. Portland is lovely. Your sister's garden is beautiful from the guest room window seat. Click. Int. Sister's house, Portland. Day. 3 days later. A letter lies under the front door. Insert. Welcome to Portland, Sarah. The garden view is nice. We'll like it here. Sarah's hands tremble. Sarah. Some things don't stop when you move. Some watchers never blink. She looks from the letter to the window, then to a hardware store flyer on the counter. Sarah VO. Stealing. Sometimes the only way to stop being hunted is to learn how to hunt. Cut to black. End. A couple on a celebratory camping trip stray off trail and stumble upon a hidden encampment of off-grid captors who keep lost hikers. Xed trailhead, morning. Maps, water, autumn blaze. Mark 33 and Lisa 31 set off. Xed. Fork in the trail, later. An older hiker nods to the right fork. Older hiker. They reblaze this way. Safer connection. They go right. Deep forest. Afternoon. Faint blazes. Fewer hikers. Mark hides worry. Checks compass. Lisa. This says we're northeast. Should be northwest. Mark will loop back. Worst case, we camp in Orient in the morning. X time. Makeshift campsite. Sunset. A hidden old fire ring under leaves. Scraps of fabric snagged on branches. They cook quietly. Night sounds. Deliberate footfalls circling the perimeter. Not animal. Int. Tent. Night. They lie awake, headlamps off, breath held. Silence returns. No sleep. xt stream bed, morning, fog. They follow water downhill. Xtid hidden depression, late morning. A recent lived-in camp, lean-to hung food fresh ash. Hanging from a low branch, a wallet, a woman's purse, cracked phone. Lisa, whisper, why hang these? Mark opens a wallet. Jennifer Walsh, 24. Mark notices dark stains in soil near a tree. Scratches. A smell that isn't just smoke. Mark, we leave, now. Forest trail, day. Salvation. A maintained trail with fresh blazes. Lisa, thank God. They move quickly. Turn the bend, back at the hidden camp. Mark, no way. Lisa checks GPS, a perfect loop. Lisa, the blazes. Mark, someone's moving them, leading us. A camouflaged man, 42nd, the Huntmaster, steps out, calm, bright eyes. Huntmaster, you folks look lost. Mark, we're trying to get back to the main trail. Huntmaster, easy to get turned around if you don't know the woods. I've been out here 3 years, got friends. We look out for each other. Camouflage shapes flicker in trees. 3, 5. Lisa, we'll go now. No trouble. Huntmaster. Course, but it's not safe. Steep drops. Wild animals. Better to stay for a meal. A few days. Meet the community. He gestures toward the hanging items. Huntmaster. Kund. Jennifer was good company. Sarah, too. They didn't listen about safety. Mark, you can't hold people here. Huntmaster hold? Ugly word. We help folks find where they belong. Mark feints left, yanks Lisa right. Mark run. Dake stick, underbrush. Day. Branches slash. They dive behind a fallen log, gasping. Footprints circle the log. Fresh. The Huntmaster sits atop the log, amused. Huntmaster, you run well, but I know every hollow. Ready to talk? More figures appear. 3 men, 1 woman. All camo, all weathered. Huntmaster, welcome to our little community. The distant thrum of helicopters grows. Voices faintly call names. The Huntmaster's confidence flickers. Huntmaster, impossible. Mark bolts toward the sound, dragging Lisa. Ridge clearing. Later. Rescue team emerges, orange vests bright through trees. The camo figures melt back into the forest. Hands pull Mark and Lisa into the circle. Relief. Tears. Montage aftermath. Evidence strung in trees, discovered by law enforcement. Tape lines and improvised court bulletin board. Regional abductions, blaze tampering. Illegal camps. Mark and Lisa give statements, testify. News chyrons. Forest captors dismantled. Int. Apartment. Night. Maps folded into a box. Hiking boots placed gently inside. Lisa closes the box. Mark nods. They turn out the light. End. A night shift clerk begins receiving silent calls at the same time every night, only to discover a stalker has wired his store and his life with hidden surveillance. Int. Murphy's Corner Market. Night. Fluorescence buzz. Tom, 24, rings up a trucker's coffee. Phone 11:47 p.m. Tom answers. Tom, Murphy's Corner Market. Tom speaking. Silence. Faint breathing. Click. Montage calls over days. 11:47 p.m. precisely. Silence plus ambient noises. Papers. Footsteps. Traffic. Int. Market. Night. Officer Walsh, 42nd, sips coffee. Walsh, keep a log. If it escalates, we'll act. Tom writes in a small notebook. 11:47, breathing, pages. Night 7. Tom answers. He hears his own greeting, played back his exact words, then the distinct beep pattern of his register in the background. Tom scans the empty store. Night 8. Manager Dave, 32nd, hears Tom out. Dave, cameras are pricey. Tom, someone's been inside, recording me. Dave grimaces. Dave, I'll see what I can do. Night 9, 11, 47. Tom hears a recording of himself in conversation he doesn't remember. Recorded voice. About 2 years. Alone from 10 to 6. Studying during slow hours. Tom Pale's facts are accurate. He grabs a bat, sweeps the aisles, stockroom, cooler. Nothing. Returns to the counter. The old parking lot monitor displays a live angle from behind Tom, an angle that shouldn't exist. Phone rings. Voice distorted, calm. You look confused, Tom. You're easy to learn, predictable. Tom, you installed cameras. How'd you get in? Voice old locks. No alarm. You take a 2 a.m. restock and a 4 a.m. paperwork break. Tom, I'm calling the police. Voice. Tell them about nightly calls, hidden cameras you can't find. See if they rush over. Beat. Voice low. I admire you. Hardworking. Alone. Trying to be better. Tom, you've been to my apartment? Voice studio on Elm. Textbooks stacked by the window. Good habits. Tom's jaw tightens. Tom, what do you want? Voice a friend. Tom, this isn't friendship, it's stalking. Voice, I protected you when that guy followed you to your car last week. Tom flashes to the lot, incident someone had veered away, abruptly. Tom, take down the cameras. Stop calling. Leave me alone. Voice, I can't dot. How will I know you're safe? The last 3 night clerks didn't understand. They left. Tom's eyes narrow. Tom, what did you do to them? Voice, they ran. You won't? A soft click from the back door. It opens. Tom looks up. A figure in dark clothes and a ski mask stands at the end of an aisle. Tom, take off the mask. Figure, not yet. TOM steps forward with the bat. The figure steps back equally, keeping distance. Voice, from phone. Turn around. Tom realizes the call and the figure are the same person. Voice distorted. Tom, what's your name? Figure names don't matter. Tom, they do to me. A pause. Figure Alex. Tom, Alex, remove the cameras. Stop following me home. Then we'll talk like normal people. A long silence. Alex, if I stop watching, how will I know you didn't disappear? Tom, you'll have to trust me. Give me your number. If I need help, I'll call you. But only if you give me space. Alex shifts, uncertain. The mask tilts. Alex, what if you don't call? Tom, then you'll know you didn't force me. That matters. Alex backs toward the rear exit. ALX, soft. What if I'm too damaged for normal friendship? Tom lowers the bat, something human in his eyes. Tom, then we'll learn together, but it has to start with respect. Alex nods once, then slips out the back. Int, market. Next night, 11:47. The phone rings. Tom breathes, steady, picks up, silence. Then a natural, unaltered voice, nervous, human. ALX OS. Hi, Tom. Tom looks toward the back. The rear door opens. Alex enters, no mask. Average. Ordinary. Trembling. They step into the fluorescent quiet together. Cut to a small crescent of black plastic and wires on the counter, one of the hidden pinhole cameras clipped free. Tom and Alex sit on milk crates near the back. 2 cups of instant coffee steam between them. No surveillance, just 2 people choosing to look each other in the eye. Fade out. End.
The road to Black Hollow was never straight. It twisted and turned like it didn't want you to reach the village. The signboard had half its paint peeled off, as if it too wanted to disappear. Ananya sat quietly in the back seat of the bus, watching the fog swallow the fields outside. She had never heard of Black Hollow until last week. Her uncle had passed away mysteriously, and in his will, he had left her an old house in the village. The bus driver, a man in his late 50s with a wrinkled face, kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "You alone?" he asked. "Yes," she replied softly. He didn't say anything after that, but his eyes said enough people didn't come here alone. By the time the bus stopped, the sky was already turning gray. The air felt thicker, colder. A few villagers stood near the small bus stop, staring at her. Not curious, not friendly, just staring. The house was a 20-minute walk from the stop. The path was lined with leafless trees, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The crunch of her footsteps on the gravel felt too loud in the silence. When she finally saw it, her breath caught. The house was big, Victorian style, but falling apart. Windows were broken. The front door was slightly ajar, creaking with the wind. And yet, something about it felt as if it was waiting for her. Inside, the air was stale. Dust floated in the thin beams of light coming from the cracked windows. Furniture was covered with white sheets. Every creak of the wooden floor felt like someone was following her. She found her uncle's study on the 2nd floor. The desk was neat, too neat for someone who died unexpectedly. On the table lay a single photograph. It was of her uncle and a shadowy figure standing just behind him. But the shadow had no face. She shivered. It must have been a trick of the light, right? That night, as she tried to sleep in one of the upstairs rooms, she heard its soft footsteps in the corridor. Slow, deliberate. She held her breath, waiting. The footsteps stopped right outside her door. Silence. And then 3 slow knocks. Ananya froze. Her eyes darted to the clock on the bedside table, 2:47 a.m. The kind of time when the world outside forgets you exists. Her heart pounded in her ears. The knocks had been slow, deliberate. Not the wind, not the house. Settling. Someone was there. She sat up slowly, her breath shaky. "Hello?" she whispered, immediately regretting it. No reply. The silence was so complete that it felt heavier than the knocks themselves. After what felt like an eternity, she slid out of bed, her bare feet touching the cold wooden floor. She tiptoed to the door, pressing her ear against it. Nothing. Her fingers hovered over the doorknob. Just open it. It's probably nothing, she told herself. With a deep breath, she turned the handle and pulled. The corridor stretched out, empty and dimly lit by the pale moonlight seeping through a cracked window at the far end. There was no one there, but the old carpet outside the door had fresh footprints. Small, but deep enough to suggest someone had been standing there for a while. Ananya's throat went dry. She followed the prints down the hall, each step creaking under her weight. The trail stopped halfway, right in front of her uncle's study. The door to the study was closed now. She remembered leaving it slightly open earlier. Her hands trembled as she reached for the doorknob, cold, like it had been in the shade for hours. The hinges groaned as she pushed it open. Inside, the room was exactly as before, except for one thing. The photograph on the desk was gone. She searched the drawers, the shelves, even the floor. Nothing. Then her eyes landed on the old wardrobe in the corner. Its doors were shut tight. She couldn't explain why, but the sight of it filled her with dread. She approached slowly. The smell hit her first damp wood and something faintly metallic. Her fingers gripped the handle. A sudden bang echoed through the house, making her jump back. It had come from downstairs. She bolted out of the study, rushing to the staircase. The ground floor was cloaked in shadow. The front door swung slowly, as if it had just been opened, and then closed again. The wind outside howled through the cracks. Heart racing, she locked the door, double-bolted it, and checked every window. Nothing seemed disturbed. She returned to her room, forcing herself to believe it was just a bad dream. But when she pulled the covers over herself, her eyes widened in terror. The missing photograph was lying on her pillow. Only now, the shadowy figure in the picture was standing closer. Ananya didn't sleep that night. The photograph lay on the pillow, its edges slightly curled, the glossy surface reflecting the dim moonlight from the window. Her uncle was smiling in the picture. The shadow beside him was not. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. Up close, the figure's outline was wrong. Its shoulders too narrow, its arms too long. And yet, its head was perfectly upright, like it was staring straight at the camera. Straight at her. She shoved the photo into her bag, deciding she would burn it in the morning. When the first light of dawn seeped through the curtains, she forced herself out of bed. The house felt different in the daylight, less threatening, but still off. Every creak of the floorboards followed her like a whisper. In the kitchen, she found a kettle on the counter. It looked ancient, the kind that whistled when it boiled. She had just set it on the stove when a voice spoke behind her. "You shouldn't be here." She spun around. A woman stood at the doorway, her clothes plain but worn, her eyes sharp with something between pity and warning. "I'm your neighbor," she said. "My name's Mala." Ananya tried to steady her voice. "How did you? The door was locked." "It wasn't," Mala said simply, "and locks don't work here." Mala glanced around the kitchen like she was searching for something. Then she looked at Ananya's bag. "Did you find the picture?" Ananya's chest tightened. "How do you know about that?" Her neighbor didn't answer. She just stepped closer and whispered, "If it's come out, it means it's noticed you." "What's noticed me?" Ananya asked, her patience thinning. "The thing in the picture," Mala said. "It doesn't like being ignored." Before Ananya could press for more, Mala walked out just like that. No goodbye, no explanation. When Ananya followed her to the front door, she was gone. The path outside was empty. The rest of the day passed in uneasy silence. She tried to distract herself by exploring the house's dusty bedrooms, an attic filled with old trunks, and a cellar that smelled of damp earth, but nothing felt truly empty. As night fell, she sat in the study, reading through her uncle's old journals. Most entries were mundane lists of repairs, notes about the garden until she found the last one. The 17th of January. "It came again last night. Stood at the foot of my bed until the clock struck 3. I didn't move. If I move, it follows. If I breathe too loud, it leans closer. I think it wants me to see its face. God help me if I ever do." A sharp chill crawled up her spine. Her uncle died on the 18th of January. That night, she locked her bedroom door and kept the light on. But sometime past midnight, the bulb flickered. Once, twice, then went out. The room plunged into darkness. Her breath quickened. Then she heard its slow, dragging footsteps. Not in the hallway this time, inside her room. She didn't move. She didn't even blink. The sound stopped right beside her bed. And then she felt it, a slow, cold breath on her face. The cold breath lingered against her skin, each exhale impossibly slow, as if savoring her fear. Ananya's heart pounded so hard she thought it would give her away. She couldn't see it, not in the pitch black, but she knew it was standing right there, close enough that if she reached out, her fingers would brush against it. She didn't dare. Her phone was on the bedside table, just inches away. She slid her hand slowly toward it, trying not to make a sound. Her fingertips grazed the edge of the device, and the breathing stopped. The silence that followed was worse. She froze, phone still out of reach. Then, without warning, something icy and weightless touched her cheek. She yelped and grabbed her phone, switching on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness. Nothing. Her room was empty, the door still locked. She sat there for hours, trembling, until dawn finally arrived. The first thing she did was grab the photograph from her bag and take it out into the backyard. The air outside was damp, heavy with morning fog. She set the photo on the ground, struck a match, and dropped it onto the glossy surface. The edges curled, blackened, and turned to ash. But before the center could burn, the fire went out. Just out. Like something had sucked the flame away. The photo lay there, untouched in the middle, the shadow figure somehow darker than before. And now, it wasn't standing beside her uncle. It was standing alone. Shaken, she went back inside, only to find Mala waiting for her in the hallway. "You tried to burn it," Mala said flatly. "You can't. Not while you're in the house." Ananya's voice cracked. "What is it?" Mala hesitated, then said, "We call it the guest. It doesn't live here. It visits. But once it notices you, it never forgets." "And my uncle? Did it?" Mala's expression darkened. He saw its face. Before Ananya could ask more, Mala turned and left, disappearing down the path like last time. By evening, Ananya decided she couldn't stay another night. She packed her bag, planning to catch the morning bus. But when she went to the front door, the bolt wouldn't move. The metal was ice cold, stiff, as if welded shut. Then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The key she had left in the lock was gone. She searched the house frantically. Under cushions, in drawers, in her uncle's study. No key. Finally, in desperation, she checked her bedroom. It was there on her pillow, and next to it, the photograph. Now, the figure was closer than ever, its head tilted, as if leaning toward the camera. Ananya stared at the photograph. Her throat felt dry, her hands clammy. In this version, the shadow's head was tilted, almost curious. Its featureless face seemed to lean toward the lens, as if trying to get a better look at her. She dropped it instantly, the glossy surface sliding across the bedspread. The key beside it was cold, unnaturally cold, like it had been sitting in a freezer. She shoved both into her bag. She wasn't sleeping tonight. Instead, she sat in the study watching the clock tick past each hour. The rain outside started as a whisper, then grew into a steady rhythm against the windows. Around midnight, the air in the room shifted denser, heavier. The smell hit her first. Damp soil and rust. Then came the sound, a faint shuffle like bare feet on wood, moving somewhere above her. The attic. Her gut told her to stay put, but something deeper, curiosity, or maybe a strange pull, made her grab the flashlight and climb the narrow staircase. The attic door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust motes dancing in the flashlight beam. Old trunks, broken furniture, and yellowed newspapers filled the space. She swept the light across the room and froze. At the far end, something stood in the corner, still, tall, too thin. Its arms hung low, fingertips almost reaching its knees. No face, just a smooth, pale surface where features should have been. Yet she knew it was watching her. Her breath hitched. She took a step back. The thing didn't move. Then, it tilted its head, exactly like in the photograph. The flashlight flickered. In that split second of darkness, it moved closer. Another flicker, and it was closer still. By the third flicker, it stood right in front of her. She stumbled back, heart hammering, and bolted down the attic stairs, slamming the door shut. She pressed her back against it, chest heaving. Silence. Then 3 slow knocks from the other side. She fled to her room, locking the door, shoving a chair under the handle. For hours, she sat curled in the corner, waiting for dawn. When the sun finally rose, she found the attic door wide open, and on the floor beneath it, another photograph. This time, there was no one else in the frame, just her. Ananya stared at the new photograph in her trembling hands. It was her standing in her bedroom, the same clothes she was wearing right now. The image was too sharp to have been taken with any old camera. It looked like it had been taken seconds ago. Her mind raced. Someone had been inside her room. Someone was still inside the house. The floorboard above her creaked. Her eyes darted to the ceiling. Slow, deliberate steps moved across the upstairs, landing her uncle's old bedroom. She grabbed her bag, stuffing the photograph inside without looking at it again. This time, she wasn't waiting for dawn. She was getting out, locked door or not. She ran to the front door, gripped the bolt, and yanked hard. It didn't budge. The cold metal stung her skin like ice. Her breath fogged in the air inside the house. Then, from behind her, she heard it. Not footsteps this time. A voice. Low, slow, whispering her name. She turned, and it was there. The guest. It stood in the hallway, its pale, faceless head tilted as if studying her. Its limbs were impossibly long, fingers brushing the floor. She tried to scream, but her voice caught in her throat. It began to walk toward her. Each step was silent, yet she felt the vibrations through the floor. When it was only a few feet away, it stopped and crouched, bringing its head level with hers. Even without eyes, she knew it was looking at her. A thin hand reached out. The skin stretched tight over the bone and gently touched her cheek. The air around her turned freezing, and then it spoke. Not in her ears, in her head. Do you want to see? Her uncle's journal flashed in her mind. God help me if I ever do. She shook her head violently. No! The thing's head tilted further. It leaned in until its smooth face was inches from hers. Her vision blurred, her ears filled with a rushing sound like the ocean in a storm. Before she could close her eyes, the skin on its face began to shift. Split. She saw. Her scream tore through the house, echoing into the fog outside. The next morning, Mala stood at the bus stop, waiting. The bus arrived, but Ananya wasn't on it. Later, the villagers found the house empty. Her bag was still by the door, her clothes in the wardrobe. Only one thing lay on the kitchen table. A new photograph. It showed Ananya, smiling beside a shadowy figure. This time, she was the one standing closer to the camera.
It was almost midnight when Ethan's car rolled into the small, forgotten town of Black Hollow. The fog lay heavy across the cracked streets, swallowing the street lamps until they looked like faint, dying stars. He wasn't here by accident. His late uncle had left him an old Victorian mansion at the edge of town. a strange gift from a man he barely remembered. The house stood waiting at the end of a lonely road, 3 stories tall, with broken shutters that creaked in the cold wind. The roof sagged, ivy crawled over the walls, and a faint orange light flickered inside. Ethan frowned. He was sure no one else should be here. He stepped inside, and the door groaned shut behind him. The air smelled of dust, mold, and something else, faintly metallic like blood. The hallway stretched into darkness, lined with portraits of strangers whose painted eyes seemed to follow his every move. Ethan told himself it was just old paint, old wood, old air. But the floorboards beneath his boots seemed to sigh, as if something beneath the house was breathing. The first night, he stayed in the downstairs study. The flickering light came from an oil lamp already lit on the desk. He hadn't touched it. There was a journal there, its leather cover cracked with age. Inside, the writing slanted wildly, sometimes in ink, sometimes in something darker. They watch from the walls. They know when I sleep. They whisper my name. He closed it quickly. Just some rambling from his uncle, he thought. Then he heard it. A voice. Not from the hall, not from upstairs, from inside the wall right behind him. A slow, drawn-out whisper. Ethan. He froze. The whisper came again, a little louder, like breath sliding through wood. The second night, it got worse. He had explored the first 2 floors, finding nothing but dust, cobwebs, and furniture covered in white sheets. But on the 3rd floor, there was a locked door at the end of the hall. Its wood was darker, almost black, and it was colder there. The keyhole looked warped, like something had tried to force its way out. That night, the whispering didn't stop. It was constant, just below hearing, like 100 voices murmuring under his skin. Sometimes they laughed softly, sometimes they screamed, but always in that slow, wet tone that made his stomach twist. At 3:07 a.m., the whispering stopped. Silence. Then footsteps. Not on the floor above, not in the hall, inside his room. He could feel the floorboards shift with each slow step. His breath caught, his pulse slammed against his ribs. He didn't move until dawn. By the 3rd day, Ethan wanted to leave. But the town's single gas station was closed. His phone had no signal, and his car wouldn't start. It wasn't the battery, it wasn't the engine. When he opened the hood, he found something strange. Long, thin handprints in the dust, as if something had crawled inside and wrapped around the engine. That night, the locked door upstairs rattled. Not violently, but like someone or something was testing it. Slowly, patiently. He put a chair under his bedroom door handle and stayed awake. But at some point, exhaustion dragged him into sleep. When he woke, the chair was gone, and the locked door upstairs was open. The 4th night, Ethan decided to end it. He packed his bag, grabbed a crowbar, and headed for the attic door. Whatever was here, he'd face it and be done. The attic was wrong. The air was wet and warm like a giant mouth. The wood was slick beneath his shoes, and on the far wall there was a hole, perfectly round, big enough for a person to crawl through. He stepped closer, the crowbar shaking in his hands. From inside the hole, dozens of pale hands shot out, grabbing his arms, his throat, his legs. Faces pressed through the wood like it was skin. Wide eyes, open mouths, teeth clicking. The whispers became screams. He fought, swinging the crowbar. But for every hand he broke free from, another clawed into him. They pulled him into the hole, into the dark, into something wet and endless. Ethan woke up on the study floor, gasping. Morning light spilled through the window. His bag was still there. His car keys were in his pocket. Had it been a nightmare? Number because on his arms, his legs, and his throat, there were bruises, thin and perfect, shaped like fingers. From that day on, Ethan never left the house, because the whispers wouldn't let him. And sometimes, at night, when the fog rolls thick over Black Hollow, you can hear them too, calling your name from somewhere deep inside the walls. The storm outside hadn't stopped. It was as if the clouds themselves had decided to trap the world in darkness. The rain hit the old wooden house like bullets, each drop echoing in the empty corridors. You thought the worst was over. You thought surviving the night before meant the nightmare had ended, but you were wrong, because the real horror had only just begun. You wake up to the sound of something scraping against the floor. It's faint, slow, deliberate, like someone dragging a chair or a body. You force your eyes open. The candle you lit before sleeping has burned down to nothing. The room is pitch black. Your heart starts pounding. You know you're not alone. Then, the scraping stops. Silence. Dead silence. You slowly sit up, every muscle tense. Your breath comes out in short bursts, and then you hear it, a whisper, right next to your ear. You shouldn't have stayed here. You spin around, but there's nothing, just darkness. You grab the old flashlight from the floor and switch it on. The beam cuts through the black, revealing the dusty floorboards and peeling wallpaper. Everything seems normal, until you notice the wet footprints. They start from your bed and lead out of the room. But here's the problem. The footprints are too big to be yours. You follow them slowly, your flashlight trembling in your hand. The sound of rain and thunder fills the hall, but beneath it, you can hear something else. A faint humming, it's coming from the kitchen. You take a deep breath and step inside. At first the room looks empty, but then you see her. A woman, standing in the corner. Her back to you, her long black hair dripping wet. Her dress torn and muddy. She's humming a lullaby, one that feels strangely familiar. You freeze. Every instinct tells you to run, but your feet won't move. Slowly, her head starts to turn. Not her body, just her head, and it keeps turning, far more than it should. Her eyes lock onto yours. They're pure white, no pupils, no life. You drop the flashlight. It hits the floor, spinning, the beam dancing across the walls. When you pick it up again, she's gone, but the humming hasn't stopped. You stumble back into the hallway, breathing hard. You need to get out of this house. Now, but as you rush toward the door, the air grows colder. Your breath fogs up in front of you. And then, the front door slams shut on its own. You grab the handle, pull with all your strength. It doesn't budge. Then, from the reflection in the glass, you see them. Figures. Dozens of them. Standing in the hallway behind you, their faces hidden in shadow, one by one, their heads tilt to the side, in perfect unison. You spin around, but they're gone. The floor creaks, the lights flicker, and somewhere deep in the house, a clock begins to chime. But there's no clock in this house. You follow the sound, drawn to it like a moth to a flame. It leads you to a room you've never seen before. The door is half open. Inside is a single rocking chair, and in it, a child's doll. Its porcelain face is cracked, one eye missing. Its head turns toward you, slowly, and then it speaks. They're coming for you. The rocking chair stops. The air feels heavy, almost too thick to breathe. And then you hear footsteps, running fast toward the room. You slam the door shut and press your back against it. The footsteps stop. Then, a knock, slow, steady. Let us in. You don't answer. The knock turns into pounding. The pounding turns into scratching. long, sharp scratches, like claws on wood. You grab the nearest thing you can use as a weapon, a rusted iron poker from the fireplace. The scratching stops. Silence again. You take a shaky breath. And then the door bursts open. But there's no one there. The hallway is empty. You step out and find yourself standing in front of a mirror. Only, your reflection isn't moving. It just stands there, smiling. A smile far too wide to be yours. You lift your hand. The reflection doesn't. Then it whispers, with your voice, "You're already dead." The mirror shatters. You fall back, glass slicing your arms. But when you look up, you're no longer in the house. You're in the middle of a forest. Rain still pours, but the trees are so tall they block most of the light. In the distance, you see the woman again. The one from the kitchen. She's holding something in her hands. A photograph. Your photograph. She looks at it, then tears it in half. And suddenly, you feel it. A burning pain in your chest, as if something inside you just broke. You try to run, but the forest feels endless. The sound of whispers follows you, circling you. You can't see them, but you know they're close. Branches grab at your clothes, your hair. The ground beneath you turns to mud, slowing you down. And then, you trip. When you look up, you see a small cabin. Its windows glow with faint candlelight. You crawl toward it, desperate for shelter. Inside is a single table, and on it, a book. Its pages are filled with names. Some are crossed out. Some are written in red, and at the very bottom is your name. The candle goes out. The room plunges into darkness. You hear footsteps behind you. Slow, measured. You turn and see her again. But this time, she's closer. Her skin pale as bone. Her mouth sewn shut. She reaches for you. Her fingers long and sharp like knives. And as she touches your face, you hear it. Not with your ears, but in your mind. You can never leave. The world around you begins to fade. The cabin melts into shadow. The floor disappears beneath your feet. And you realize you're falling into blackness, into a place where there's no sound, no light, no escape. Your last thought before everything goes silent is that this nightmare was never about the house. It was about you, and they've been waiting for you all along.